Hello, welcome all you awakening wonders out there. My name is Chrissy and today I will be giving you a psychic prediction reading for the 25th of August. Now, I just let my guides channel through to you if you are new here. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and I'll close my eyes, we'll get started and we'll just see what comes up. Now, the guides are saying what they're dishing up to people is becoming terrifying. This is starting to make people quake in their boots, and it should be, because if they knew about the reset, I talk about them not really understanding what's going on, these people waking up. If they knew, they would be quaking in their boots. So there's this, they're getting terrified, and they're getting terrified of every aspect of their life. They're getting terrified if they're going to be able to meet their bill repayments. They're getting terrified. I talk a lot about America. Someone, Nicole, you were asking me yesterday about America. You guys feel very vulnerable because you haven't got strong representation, as we know. There's a bit of a dottery old man there making decisions for you, but people feel vulnerable then to other stronger countries, such as China and Russia, and these are the kind of things that are starting to terrify people, where their future is headed. It's looking very gloomy. It's not looking like it's going in a great direction, is it? The housing market's dropping. People's houses they've bought are now worth less. What did you call it, John? It's that negative equity, I think it is. You said, John, the other week. Well, this is what's starting to terrify these people, and they should be terrified because we know it ain't going to get any better, is it? It's still going down the road of the reset agenda, which is certainly not in any of our favours, which is meaning the little people. Hang on, let's see what else we get today. And it's showing me like, well, I talk a lot here about the people waking up because this is very important to all of our future moving forward, that these people who have been complying and going along with government's narratives, this is globally, they need to stop complying because it gives everybody their freedom back. We all know that here on my channel. And this is what I'm getting for them. It's almost like they're in such chaos, this is the people waking up, that they're having to cover their ears. You know, I talked yesterday about them hearing things, like with the Dr. Spock ears, and that they're hearing things, a lot more things, and their ears are pricking up. But what's happening, it's just so much chaos and noise coming at them from government, not from anyone else, that they're wanting to, like, cover it. It's like that, no, I can't hear, when, like, the monkey, is it covering its ears? They don't want to hear any more from government. And that's the image I'm getting for these people waking up. They just can't allow themselves to hear anything else because it's too overwhelming. It's making them feel like that, physically sick. So I've got them like trying to stop the chaotic energy is probably the word for it, really, because it's a vibration, and it's like now starting to hurt their ears, their head. It's that overwhelm. Overwhelming, all right. We know how overwhelming it all is. And there's more to come. This is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Of what they've been rolling out. Gosh. Hang on a sec. Oh, and by the way, just to let you know what's happening here in Australia, it's all happening in Australia at the moment. Our Prime Minister Albanese, I think they're actually calling on a royal commission into the COVID-19 pandemic and how it was all handled and, you know, what went wrong and what we can learn from it. So, again, we've still got our current Prime Minister Albanese looking back like this over his shoulder, going back. He's not going forward. He's getting everybody to focus back. So on the news, it's all about what happened in the pandemic and what happened here and what happened there. And that's all happening. That's where we're at the moment. We've got our current Prime Minister. Yep, our current Prime Minister is focused behind him. He's not moving forward. Well, we know he's moving forward here in Australia, if you're awake. We know he's moving forward, but he's getting all the spotlight off the current reset, and it's all getting put on what happened before. Why would you be going back to all the nonsense? Anyway, so they're looking into the Royal Commission to, God, it'd probably never happen, but anyway, well, it'd be interesting to see what happens. So that's where we're at in Australia. It's still all happening here. Let me see where else we go today. Hang on. I'm getting like this visual of a big giant thunderstorm. So they're showing me like really grey turbulent skies, and there's they're showing me this like big, is it Zeus? Who's that big god of the skies? There's in Greek mythology, I think it is. There's these gods of the skies, and I'm sure it's Zeus. They keep saying Zeus for some reason. I don't know if that is who it is, but they're showing me he's got this big lightning bolt in his hand and he's like banging it down on the ground. And it's almost like, to me, what he's doing, he's interrupting, like he's banging his lightning bolt on the ground and he's wanting to interrupt these elites and government leaders. So I guess what the image is, what the guides are trying to say to me is that they might kind of get struck down by lightning. And I don't mean literally get struck down by lightning, but they're going to get taken down a few pegs because the universe, meaning Zeus or whoever it is in charge of the lightning, and I'm talking about the lightning coming down as like a big energy, this big giant figure, and the grey skies and the clouds, and this big lightning bolt hits the ground and it sends out this big ripple effect. Well, not ripple effect, this big shake up. If you think of the big lightning bolt hitting it, it just goes, if you think of that energy force, and it's going to knock a lot of these elite government leaders off their pedestals because it's the law of nature. This is kind of what the guides are kind of alluding to. They're kind of saying the law of nature will come down and knock them over. So that's a good thing. We need something to happen. And that could be around, it could be around people uprising and people standing up. We've still got strikes in Australia. I told you we've got a train strike here again today in New South Wales. Inconveniencing the small people again. None of the elites, they can still go to work, can't they, in their cars, and electric cars probably. So we've got there's things that are coming that are knocking these people off their tower. I keep saying it, you have to be aware that this has not been a smooth red carpet rollout for these tyrants and dictators. It's not gone smoothly. It has not gone smoothly. They thought it would. They thought they'd just roll it out and squash everyone and no one would be any the wiser. But that didn't happen. A lot of people became aware and the spotlight started going on, like I said, all around the globe. So they've had to like roll up the red carpet and pull their heads in a little bit. But I do feel like there's this big lightning bolt kind of coming down. And this could be coming in the next few months. But we're going to see some of these, I keep saying it, some of these people going down. And that's what we want to see because that's the law of nature. When you're a horrible, nasty, tyrannical dictator, usually you get taken down eventually. I mean, if we think of any of the ones, was it Stalin, Hitler, you name it. Oh, who was that big guy, I can't think of his name, in Africa or somewhere, I think it was. Eventually they get taken down. Well, that's what this lightning bolt represents. Some of them, these global leaders and tyrants and dictators, are going to start to get taken down. Oh, I'd love to see any of them taken down. I know you guys would. So that's what I'm getting there. Hang on a second. Oh, and just to let you know, here in Australia, I talked about it I think it was like a month ago. A lot of these businesses, we all know here on my channel, they're starting to squash small business. They want these big elite companies and corporations, like, for example, Amazon, you name it, they want to squash people. Well, BlackRock, Vanguard, they'd be all up there. They're wanting to squash little businesses. But I also talked about how they're trying to get rid of this middle class in society. We know that here. But a lot of these bigger businesses in between were going to get wiped out. Well, it started happening here in Australia. That didn't take very long, did it? There's a lot. I did say construction, and now there's construction companies starting to fold. And there's people who have got their houses like half built. There was one mob, I think it was Oracle, and there's like 300 people have got their houses half built and they've just gone into liquidation. And like, where do those people stand with their houses? So that's a classic example of all this, all these kind of bigger businesses, not small businesses, sort of medium to large businesses, they're also being taken down as well and getting wiped out now because, of course, as we know here, they only want it to be the peasants working for the elites, and the elites can have their world just all to themselves. It's how they want it. They don't want anyone in between. So we're going to see more and more of these big companies folding, and it's around everything. It's not just like construction. It's going to be around so many businesses that are like bigger, that employ a lot of people and have a lot of staff, and then this is what's happening. It's all starting to fold. It's all like collapsing so they can get that power and squash everybody down. So that's kind of another thing that's starting to come to fruition, and it didn't take very long, did it? Those bigger businesses that employ a lot of people but still aren't quite up there with the big corporate, big elites, they're starting to all fold now, and you'll see a lot more of those going into liquidation as well. I did say that probably a month or more ago. I think I said that. Anyway, let's see where else we go with this. They're just showing me. They're showing these wealthy elites and people who seem to be running everything. They're counting their dollars still. I talked about that the other day, but they're like counting their day's takings. So they're always checking, and I guess we could probably categorize this as big pharma and all the, well, pretty much all parliamentary leaders and government, I would say, are actually counting all their dollars. We know they all get payouts. We're not stupid here on my channel, are we? We know they get their little cuts from everything. And they sort of check these things on a daily basis. Like, how are we going with that? Right, we probably need to push that a little bit more because we really need to get those stocks to rise. Or there's this monitoring of that system. So they are ensuring that everybody's getting their cut of all the profits. And we know it's not even a surprise, is it? God, it makes you sick, doesn't it? So while they're filling all their pockets with their bags of gold, like I talked about the other day, not literally, but just this is an image, and stealing from all the people, they're starting to get all of us peasants and everything working for them, like the little worker bees working for the queen bee. Well, that's what they're trying to create. They're trying to create this system where it's just this small number of elites and all these zillions of like worker bees or little ants doing all the work. Well, that's their end goal. We know it is here on my channel. Doesn't mean it's going to come to fruition, does it? Because we chose not to do that, didn't we? We're the rebel bees that flew off and created our own little beehive. And we don't need a queen bee in ours. We can still produce honey. But that's what I'm kind of getting. We're the independent bee tribe. The independents. Hang on a sec. I'll see if there's anything else to come up today. I still get Belgium, France, Munich, obviously Germany. There's like these like takeovers. I would say these takeovers are like corporate takeovers. There's going to be a lot of this corporate takeover in these regions. They're moving things in now to dominate. And again, that's when you're going to see all these little medium-sized businesses starting to collapse in a lot of these regions. We know it's happening. Big corporate, they're just taking over, aren't they? But I am getting, there's a lot of these moving into those regions now as well and starting to take over. And see, these are the things too, been talking about you guys a lot, that they might start to cause people to fight back a bit. Because when things become visibly obvious, for example, you get your big clothing stores, it might be gosh, well, we know Amazon is just ridiculous online, but you're going to get these other like super stores, which might be like sporting goods, or it might be mountain gear. You get a lot of shops with like camp gear and mountain gear, and they're going to be these like super mega stores that are just going to wipe out businesses. I mean, who can compete with someone who's buying like lots of goods and can have the price marked down very reasonable to a little sort of smaller business that's not going to be able to compete price wise with that. So that's what's happening in a lot of these regions. There's going to be these like mega store takeovers, and that's going to end up happening pretty much globally. We know it is. Might be starting in these areas, and then it's going to start to filter out in other places. So we're going to start seeing more of this. Everything's going to be like mega, like bigger. I'm sort of seeing like that kind of Costco and that sort of thing too. Like there's going to be a lot more of the buying in bulk and all this sort of stuff too. And it's funny, isn't it, if you think about it, looking back at the pandemic, like, isn't it just sickening how all the big corporate, like, Woolies, Coles, Aldi's, all these other, I don't know what you guys have over in like America and Canada and that, but they absolutely killed it. Their profits were absolutely ridiculous over the pandemic. Like, these big corporates just never did without, did they? And they kept people employed, and they were all getting, thanked for all the hard work all the workers did they became essential workers, because we were only allowed to believe what the government was telling everybody what was essential. Like, how's getting a haircut not essential? People were just like so bedraggled and overwhelmed. But, they were dictating what was essential, what wasn't essential. But of course, big corporate, it's always essential, isn't it? We know that it is. Oh, it's so bloody frustrating, wasn't it, that whole period? So I'm definitely getting that they're never going to do without big corporate, are they? They can get all of us working for them. Oh, it's just so bloody frustrating. All right, we'll just see what else comes up today. They're saying people have got into really bad habits. So a lot of these people waking up, not us, they've got really bad habits now. And it could just be around like their beliefs. And we know with the mass psychosis, it's become like a bad habit. Like, it's become a bad habit to like just squash people, or to vilify them is a bad habit, because there's no proof in that anymore, as we know here on my channel. But it's become this bad habit. And there's a song from years and years ago. My dad used to love this song called Bad Habits. I can't think who sang it. You could type it in, it'll come up. And it was like a jazz song, and it was called Can't Help Myself, Bad Habits. And it was this song, and it was say, like, they can't help themselves. They're stuck in it still. They can't help themselves, but still look down. And that's probably what I'm getting, actually, around this vilification of the unjabbed and mandated and vaccine injured. These people who followed and complied, I know they're waking up around other things, but their bad habits are to still look down upon other people, meaning all of us, which is so funny, isn't it, to just even think about, because they should feel ridiculous. But they've got these bad habits going where they still think that they're above people, because we know government fed that to them. Government had that on mainstream media. You will get rewarded. You're the best. You're saving all the elderly. You're saving your family and friends. This is what they were fed. So now that's become a bad habit. So they just continuously see us that way. And that's why I always say to stay away from that narrative and stay away from these people who are waking up, because that's what they're in. They've still got these bad habits, repetitive kind of habits just going on. And it's just, they're stuck in it. And we don't know if they're ever going to really come out of that, because that mass psychosis was very, very clever and very, very complex. And it's had a huge impact on these people. But they're bad habits now that they can't seem to get out of. They still look down at us. We don't see it that way, though. We see it from a whole different perspective here on my channel. We actually see ourselves as not above people, but we see ourselves as removed from people, sitting on this mountain. So sort of people can't quite see us. And it's not that we're hiding. We just chose to go off into a different vibration and sort of move ourselves away from these people and all their bad habits of putting people down. Gosh, I told you how I had to sit out in the snow at that community health centre months ago. It was freezing because I wasn't allowed into the waiting area because, yes, I'm unjabbed. What a terrible crime that is. And so they talk down to you. So they're like, no, you have to stay out here and you have to check in. I proceeded to tell the lady that they'd no longer check in and track and trace, which they weren't at the time because the Prime Minister said it. And she said, oh, it doesn't matter, we still require it here. And they talk down to you. They always talk down to you like you're a silly person. But this is what I'm saying. These bad habits, they're still there. They still talk down to anyone unjabbed. They still see you as a selfish, well, I said yesterday, granny killer and all this stuff. That's their bad habits. It's very hard to break a habit too, isn't it? You have to, they say you've got to replace it with something else, but I'm just staying away from it. So that's very clear advice today, is to stay away from all these people waking up, because a lot of them have still got their bad habits of putting us down. Look what's currently going on here in Queensland with the teachers. They're docking unvaccinated teachers' pays by 18 weeks as like a punishment. What even is that? We're all even now. It's been proven that there's no difference between jabbed and unjabbed. They even say it wanes themselves every 4 weeks. Here in Australia, that's what they say. Like, we know. How did that even come about? This was only yesterday that came about. But because someone kicked up a stink, because the old bad habits, oh, they don't deserve to be rewarded. It's the same old thing. So we know that these teachers must have stood up again, the ones that wanted everybody mandated and kicked out of their jobs. So they've obviously kicked up a stink again, so now they've had to strip people's pay. People haven't been working for like 2 or 3 years. They got sacked from their teacher jobs here. And now they're still getting this. So these bad habits, they're just not going away. And that's what's happening here in Australia. They're still attacking the unjabbed. It's absolute madness, isn't it? I know you guys understand. Sorry, sometimes I just have to share these things because they're just so insane, aren't they? So stay away from their bad habits. I guess you could relate it to like smoking or, you know, something like that, having a wine all the time, or they're very hard habits to break. They can't break them. They still look down at us. Oh, that's why it's so important that we remove ourselves and plonk ourselves over here right away from all this. Look, even when these people wake up, whatever they're doing over here, which we hope the hell they are, going to stand up soon, we still need to stay protected from them, even if it is family, because their habits are too ingrained now. Until they break that habit, it's like when someone doesn't get their cigarette. You know, if they don't get their cigarette break, if you work with anyone like that, you'll know what I mean. They have these like withdrawals and they just get angrier and angrier and more uptight and more uptight. Well, that's these people too. That's what they're like. They're bad habits that they just keep repeating. This whole world's just upside down, isn't it? Actually, that's what it kind of relates to. I heard something about, it's like Stranger Things, if anyone out there's watched that, where they have the upside down world. Like we have the main world here and then we have the upside down world, which is all these elites and these, you know, people way in the background, the puppet masters. It's like they're hidden in this underground world, like the underworld. I always talk about the CV mafia here. Well, that's what it feels like, doesn't it? It feels like there's this whole other world and we're not in it. Thank God we're not in it. And we're not in it. But these people over here waking up don't know about it. I'll tell you what, they're starting to see it now, though. There's little bits come creeping towards them of all these tyrannical leaders and dictators, and their world starts to collapse. And the thing is, that's what's waking everybody up. And I keep saying that, is that this is global. This isn't just like, oh, this country's doing that or that country's doing it. Every country, with probably a handful that isn't, which is probably about 3, they're all getting affected. It's never ending. And that's what's waking people up. Hang on, let me see if there's anything else to close with today. Yeah. And they're showing me this visual of these peasants, like in a village, just like of Hunger Games, if anyone's seen that out there. And these government leaders are standing on their pedestals over here, their big wooden platforms, and they're talking to all the little people, and they've got one loaf of bread. And it's showing me they're just about to hand it out to the little people. And the little people got all their arms up and they're begging and grovelling for food, a little bit like Sri Lanka had to do recently. And you know, when that bread flies out into that group of peasants and people, that it's just going to get ripped apart and it's going to be a shit fight, and then the people are going to be fighting amongst themselves. Well, that's what I'm seeing from government. It's almost like they're anticipating that chaotic scene, and it's like they're standing there with that loaf of bread laughing. They're just laughing at all these people who are like begging for help, begging for relief, I guess if you relate it to what we're currently going through, and begging for them to cut them a break and just stop with the crazy cost of living. So it's like governments like rubbing their hands together and like laughing to themselves, because they know the minute they throw that loaf of bread out, there's going to be a shit fight among the people. And that's pretty much what's coming to these people waking up. Not to us over here. In Terrabella Bakery, we can make our own bread because we're like taught ourselves to fish the other day on the houseboat. So we know how to grow food, nourish ourselves, and we can even bake our own bread because we've gone back to very basic things in life where we could start to make things from flour and water and make things from scratch, because we've got very, very creative over here, and we make lots of bread. We don't just make one loaf and we all fight over it over here. We've learnt to make more than one loaf. Just like the fish. We've learnt to fish, and we can catch fish because we taught ourselves to fish. So that's what I'm going to leave you with today. We are very productive, and we're very aware people who know how to keep expanding our life and keep ourselves moving forward. And that's a great skill that we need to keep focused on today. I don't mean you got to just grow all your veggies, but we've also got to stay really wise to our future moving forward. But the message, of course, from the guides is keep moving forward. Don't go back over here. There's no more fighting for bread and pieces of corners of the cobby bit and the grains in the bread, and picking on the ground looking for scraps like a little pigeon bird, like some of these people waking up might be if they don't stand up. That's what I'm getting for today. We're productive and we're on it. That's what the guides are saying. We're on it. We see it and we know what's going on over here, but we're not a part of it. We've created a whole different life because we chose, and that's what I keep saying, we chose not to be in this, which is the Great Reset agenda, because it's not for us. We don't want it. All right, well, I'm going to leave you with that today. I hope you have a wonderful day, everybody. That's just a little bit. I just thought I'd come on and have a little rant and let you know where we're at in Australia and what's currently unfolding. Anyway, we'll go and bake some bread today. Nothing better than the aroma of fresh bread. Oh, now I feel like a big loaf of fresh, crusty bread. Oh, well, there's nothing better, is there? All right, I'm going to go buy a loaf and put some sloppy butter on it and have a nice, crunchy piece of bread. All right, have a great day, everybody. I will say goodbye from Australia. Don't forget to subscribe, hit those like buttons, and I'll talk to you this afternoon. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Bye from Australia.